completely take it away. Now, you know what? I personally think he should have curbed that a little more. You know what I mean? I think they were trying to walk him into something here. Now, he does for the rest of the answer redeem himself with the rest of this rebuttal and them going back and forth here. But he says, Roe v. Wade, everyone wanted to kick it back to the states, including religious leaders. And the 3 Supreme Court justices that he put on the bench helped Roe v. Wade get overturned. It was also that in God's timing, because God did it during one of the most liberal administrations in history, is when God decided that it was time, after 50 years, after the 50-year mark, from the time that the battle for abortion started. 50 is the Jubilee, where what is stolen has to be given back. And that decision was reversed. He said now the states have to work it out. Ohio was too liberal with it. He said Kansas was too liberal with it. So he said there are states that have been too liberal when it was kicked back to the states on this. New York is another one. Let me tell you something. The leadership of New York has got innocent blood flowing out of their hands that God is about to call to account in this time. Trump believes, he says he believes in exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother being in danger. He said everyone has to follow their heart on this. He said they are radical. Now he goes into it and he said, but they are radical, he says, and will take children in the 8th and 9th month and after birth and kill the baby. That was his exact words. They will kill the baby. Yes, because they want to shed innocent blood, because this goes back to Baal and Molech and the sacrifices that they used to do, these pagan nations. Okay, so he says, but now it's been brought back to the states. Biden rebuttals. He says it's a terrible thing what Trump did. Putting those justices on the Supreme Court and Roe v. Wade being turned over as a part of that, and says we are in a state where in 6 weeks you have to decide when you don't know if you are pregnant or not. With 6 weeks, you have to decide to have an abortion when you don't know if you're pregnant or not. This is what he says. He talks about a young woman. He then goes into talking about a young woman being murdered by an immigrant. So I don't know what happened here, but he goes into a young woman being murdered by an immigrant. And then a young woman being, he's talking about women who are being raped by their brothers and sisters and spouses. So he then goes off on a tangent speaking about this. Trump gets a chance to rebuttal. He says there has been many young people murdered by those Biden has allowed to come across our borders. These killers, they are raping and killing women. You know what? I think Trump had to be very blunt there, and I think he absolutely did that. I think he had to be blunt to show the gravity of the situation that's happening. He used strong language. I think that strong language was warranted. He also said abortion is back to the states, and frankly, some are very liberal decisions. Everybody wanted it brought back to the states. So he keeps going back to saying some of these states are way too liberal on this. So he keeps going back to this point. He also said 7 states have no legal restrictions. Oh, okay. Okay. So what happens is now the moderators rein it back in and they ask them, they ask the candidates, 7 states have no legal restrictions on when women can get abortions. Do you support legal limits on abortion? Biden, he says, I support Roe v. Wade. The idea that the politicians should be making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. Oh, really? You made decisions about putting inoculations in our body that were filled with poison. So you don't think politicians should be making decisions about this, but you made sure to push and peddle inoculations that had untested, unwarranted nonsense in it. Okay. Now, here we go. Biden, let's get ready to mumble. That I'm telling you, you needed subtitles. You needed subtitles to, the Godzilla movies, one Japan, and they would then mouth it and go, God, they would say, and then they would say the words, and then you would see the subtitles. This is what we needed, right, to translate the Bidenese that was coming forth from this man, because this is what it was. You needed subtitles. I 100% agree with that. Okay, so he said, Biden says, I support Roe v. Wade. The idea that politicians should be making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. He will restore Roe v. Wade. So this is what he says. And Biden got confused. He actually thought Roe v. Wade didn't contain late-term abortion. He actually said that, so he got completely confused on that. Trump rebuttals. Biden is willing to rip the baby out of the womb. That's what he says. He's willing. Now, let me tell you why this is so prophetic, this statement that Trump made that he has no idea probably, because I prayed, Lord, get a hold of his tongue tonight and let him just, say things from you as well. Those pagan nations that sacrificed to Baal and Molech, when they would attack other nations, they would cut women's wombs open and rip the baby out of the womb. So when he was speaking, this Trump, he was speaking to these ancient demons too, that actually were the peddlers of this ideology and drove these pagan people to do this. So he said Biden is willing to rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Once again, strong language, I believe warranted. Biden, he comes out and says, we are not for late-term abortion. Roe v. Wade is not for that. Oh, really? Because tons of states have been using it for that your entire freaking term. And you have no idea that this is what it's being used for. And he misspoke. He totally misspoke there. He really does not know the contents of Roe v. Wade. He does not understand how this originated, that Margaret Stanger originally was the peddler of this ideology of abortion in order to completely wipe out the Black community. Yes, go look it up. This is true. Margaret Stanger had an agenda to push abortions and put abortion clinics in the poorest Black neighborhoods in order to, through her own version of eugenics, destroy and wipe out the Black community. Okay. Now, they change courses, the moderators. They go into immigration. They say a record number of do this, but at least they gave this question pretty straightforward. Biden, we have a bipartisan effort. Border Patrol has endorsed him. This is what he's saying. He said Trump was separating babies from their mothers and putting them in cages. That is an absolute lie. The reason they would separate the child briefly from the parents is to make sure they were really their parents and not sex trafficking them across the border. And the only way to do that is to separate them and interview them separately. They were trying to save children from being sex trafficked, okay? So if he wants to talk about cages and harming children, maybe he needs to take a good look, see what his son Hunter did. If he wants to venture down that avenue, he needs to take a good look in the mirror. He said he has changed the law. 40% less people are coming across the border than when Trump was in office. I don't believe that. I think that's a load of malarkey. 40% less people? Excuse me, was it the Exodus when Trump was in office? Were we having the Exodus? Honestly. And the 2 million just coming across? No. So this is absolute malarkey. The man should be named Pinocchio. He honestly should, because what he is trying to peddle is not even believable. Okay, Trump, as you can tell, I'm hopped up. After having to watch this for 90 minutes of my time, I am absolutely hopped up about this. Okay, so Trump responds. He said he couldn't make out what Biden said. So that was what kept out rather. He's like, I can't make out what he said. This is where you need the Godzilla subtitles to come in and help the American public and do them a service, CNN, during this debate. Okay, so he couldn't make out what he said. And he said Biden did not know what he said. So then he says, I don't think he even knows what he said. Biden decided to open up the border to terrorists, people from prisons and mental institutions, terrorists coming from all over the world. And this guy just left it open. This is what he said. We had the safest border in history, according to Border Patrol. We had the safest border in history. Now we have the most dangerous. That is a 100% true fact. Trump severely limited what was coming across that border. He untied the hands of Border Patrol. He actually allowed them to do their job. He released them to do their job, and all of America benefited from it. You cannot have this many undocumented, unvetted people, when most of them are men of military fighting age that have gang tattoos all over their body. You can't do that. And that is exactly what Biden is doing. Biden rebuttals. He says the only terrorist who came across the border was Al-Qaeda, who killed 3 American soldiers. Now, I'm not sure what he was referencing there or which border he's talking about. Is he talking about the Iraq border, the Afghanistan border, or is he talking about the American border? Maybe you guys can figure that out for me. He said there is no data to support all the terrorists coming across the border. Oh, really? They just caught them in multiple cities because ISIS came across our southern border and they just did a sting operation and caught them. And they were planning a massive terrorist attack. Apparently, Biden is not briefed at all by the head of the Security Council, the head of the NSA, the heads of the military, the generals, or anything else, because he would have known this going into this debate if he was. Then they asked Trump about doing the largest domestic deportation in history because he has said this very openly and publicly, and this was Trump's answer. He said the people... So now he's got a rebuttal, right? Because Trump has to have the last word. So he's got to rebuttal what Biden said first about these terrorists coming across the border and killing 3 American soldiers. He said the people we killed were el-Baghdadi and Soleimani. That's what he said. Biden is the one who killed people by letting them across the border, meaning the terrorists. They are killing our people in every state of the union because of his ridiculous, insane, and stupid policies. They are killing our citizens at a level we have never seen. This is true. It is ridiculous. It is insane. It is stupid. And I'm telling you, these policies are spawned, many of them, from the pits of hell. They are, because they are meant to cause chaos, confusion. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And that is what we see happening. But Jesus Christ came to give life and life more abundant. He said there was a 12-year-old girl killed by illegals. We are an uncivilized country now. Biden opened the border. We have to get a lot of these people out and fast. They are living in luxury hotels in New York City, he says, while our veterans are dying. That is 100% true. They're putting them up in hotels in Poughkeepsie. Let me tell you a story for a minute. I'm going to pause. Somebody who works for us, their fiance, found at his property 2 illegal immigrants sleeping in tents on his driveway. Sleeping in tents on his driveway. And when they were approached, they said they were dropped off there. They were dropped off there. When the police were called, the police said, we can't touch them. We can only keep telling them they have to move. Thank you, Governor Hochul. Because this is going to backfire on her. It is. Because this is a recipe for class action lawsuits and things of that nature. But they were dropped off by their driveway. That's what they told them. They were just dropped off. And they were dropped off with these very nice tents, they said. These were no Walmart tents. These were really, really nice tents. So basically, I just wanted to tell you that side story. So he says, Trump says they're living in luxury hotels in New York City while our veterans are dying. He has killed so many people by allowing these people to come in. That is true. You are allowing undocumented, unvetted people, many of them that are filled with the demonic and under the influence of the kingdom of darkness, and you're letting them across the border completely unvetted. Okay. Biden rebuttals. He said every single thing Trump said is a lie. Oh, really? In what country? In what time zone? That every single thing this man said is a lie? No, this is what they do. They deflect. They say things that sound insane, hoping if they keep telling you a circle is a square, you'll believe it's a square. This is the tactic. Up, here's Forbidden Planet. We need to catch Biden and release himself of the border. I very much agree with that. And we ain't talking about Taco Bell people. We talking about dropping him off on the other side of Mexico and letting him fend for himself. So thank you, Forbidden Planet, for that comment. So he says everything Trump said is a lie. Veterans are better off because they are being covered from Agent Orange. Okay, now, I know veterans suffer effects from Agent Orange, but wasn't that back in Vietnam and World War II? I mean, weren't we talking back that long ago that Agent Orange was used? But he says they're better off now because they're being covered from Agent Orange. And then Biden starts garbling and mumbling. I could not make out what the man was saying. You saw Trump's face. He couldn't make out what the man was saying. And the two CNN moderators, I believe, were instructed and threatened under severe firing that if they laughed, they would be fired. I am convinced that CNN threatened or blackmailed these moderators, because how can you keep a straight face when this starts happening? You either laugh or cry. Cry for the man because he's completely lost, or laugh because nobody can understand what he's saying. So basically he starts garbling and mumbling, and I could not. Nobody could, only Almighty God in that moment knew what this man just said. Okay. And then he says he went to the World War II cemetery, but Trump refused to go, calling them suckers and losers. Now, that is a stretch, being we all know how Trump feels about our military and our veterans. So Trump rebuttals. He said they made that up. It was a third-rate magazine. This is what he says. I'm so glad this came up. There is no one who has taken better care of our veterans, other than when he was president, he means. It was made up by him. So he's saying this was made up by Biden, just like Russia. And he's got to start getting that in there. So this is the point Trump really starts driving this home. Like the 51 intelligence agents and the Russia disinformation came from his son Hunter. So he says the Russia disinformation came from his son Hunter because his son Hunter at the time was doing some business with some unscrupulous people that he shouldn't have been. And this is how some of this misinformation was attained. Biden responds. He said, a 4-star general on your staff said you said it. Which 4-star general? Oh, yeah? Well, a 4-star general said that you said this. This is what it sounded like at this point. We are doing more for veterans than in history. Would you like to ask veterans? Maybe we should go up to the Veterans Center in Poughkeepsie and poll them and ask them if Biden is doing more than anybody else in history. We may do that. We may go up to the Veterans Center live and poll them on what they think, because I bet you if you took a poll, veterans would not say more now than ever is being done for them. Then they get into the Russia-Ukraine war. So the moderators now switch gears again. I have no clue how they are not peeing themselves at this point with some of the things that have been said. Like I said, I think they were blackmailed by CNN that they had to have a stone cold face the entire time and a poker face. So they get into the Russia-Ukraine war, and they said they were talking about how Putin will only end the war if Russia keeps the territory it claimed already and Ukraine abandons their quest for NATO, or their bid for NATO. So this was the kind of what this question surrounded. And Trump says, he says, first of all, he has to go back to our veterans. Okay, so Trump, first of all, has to deal with the lunacy that Biden just said about 60 seconds ago. He said, first of all, our veterans and soldiers cannot stand Biden. Well, he's probably not far off on that. He also says, as far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president respected by Putin, they would have never invaded. A lot of people are dead, and I think he encouraged Russia to go in. Now, he's not wrong about this, because when Trump was president, he negotiated with Putin, and Putin said, I will not invade Ukraine if you back the NATO line to Poland, because I'm almost interlocked by NATO forces. So Trump said, done. He backed the NATO line to Poland. He gave Putin the breathing room that he needed, and Putin never invaded. When Biden became president, he took that NATO line and he rammed it right against the border of Russia, and he poked the bear. And the bear woke up from hibernation very hungry and angry. This is exactly what happened. This would be like Canada ramming all of their forces right up against our border across Michigan, New York, they would just ram their, how would we react? You know what we do? We would get every available military unit and we'd start sending troops to the border. So this is kind of what happened. And so Trump is not wrong when he says that Biden encouraged Russia to go in. He really did poke the bear on this one. And he also says Afghanistan was the most embarrassing moment in our nation's history, one of them. And when Putin saw that, it gave him motivation. Trump said, we lost 13 beautiful soldiers in Afghanistan. When Putin saw that, he thought, let me go in and take Ukraine. When Putin saw the embarrassment of how we left Afghanistan and what we left there, that is motivation for a sociopath. When you do that, that is motivation for somebody like Putin to go in and do what he did to Ukraine. So he said he would have never invaded had I been president. I agree with that. Trump would have made it very difficult for Putin to invade Ukraine without some very serious consequences. Okay, now, Social Security. They move on now to the topic of Social Security, the Social Security system. And Biden speaks first. He says, make the very wealthy pay their fair share. Now, if you have somebody who makes $30,000 a year, right, that pays, say, $6,000, $7,000, right, in taxes a year, and then you have somebody that makes $2 million, okay, that's paying, about $600,000 in taxes a year, well, technically, they're getting more tax money from the person making more money. But he's saying, make the very wealthy pay their fair share. Let me ask you a question. Did Biden's family pay their fair share from all the money they got from foreign countries? Did they actually put that on the books so tax money could be taken out of it and they could pay their fair share from the millions they made from such deals? I don't think so. Okay. He said, make the wealthy pay their fair share to keep Social Security solvent. Trump wants to get rid of Social Security and Medicare. That's not necessarily true. And then he goes into education for Black communities, that he raised the amount for Pell Grants. So he then takes a very, very wide turn, and he goes into that. Trump rebuttals and says, I have never seen anyone lie like this guy. This is what he says. I've never seen anyone lie like this guy. We mention the laptop. So he mentions the laptop, and then he says, Russia, Ukraine, everything is misinformation. Biden is destroying Social Security. Millions of people are pouring into our country, and they are putting them on Social Security, Medicaid, in the hospitals, and it is harming our veterans, and they are not being cared for. That is all true. They are overloading the Social Security and Medicaid system because they are taking all these undocumented migrants and they are putting them on Social Security, Medicaid. Oh, hi, Boots. Boots has decided to join the broadcast for the first time ever because you know why? He is just very concerned for the cats of America with Biden in office. And so he watched the debate and he wanted to join in as well. So that's Boots, everyone. You've probably never seen him before live. And there's Cyrus's torso on the floor there. Okay, so I agree with this. They are overloading the system. Hospitals, schools, children are being run out of their own schools because they're flooding the migrants into their schools now. There's no room in the hospitals because the migrants are being put in the hospitals. They're filling up the hotels with them. Okay, and all Biden wants to say, is everything Trump says is not true. But this is true. This is a enormous red arrow of warning would happen, and we would be in a recovery. Okay, so Trump then rebuttals to this, and he said Biden should have fired every general having to do with Afghanistan. Did anyone get fired on the border who let 18 million people in from prisons and mental hospitals? This is what he's asking. Did one person lose their job for letting all these people in? Joe, our country is being destroyed as we stand up here suddenly, and then suddenly he starts to get tough on the border. So basically what Trump is saying here is suddenly out of nowhere now of the points he's making. And I will say, I was impressed with the amount of restraint Trump showed. He didn't really name call. He didn't really get completely obnoxious, right? He stuck to the issues. He kept hammering home the issues. That is what he needs to keep doing. He needs to keep hammering home the issues, and how all of these policies is destroying America. And if Biden or whoever they bait and switch him with gets in, it's going to end up completely destroying America. So I was very impressed with the amount of restraint he showed. And I think to a degree, Trump in the back of his mind knows Biden is not well, knows this man's memory is not good, is very aware of this fact, and he showed quite a bit of restraint. Okay, Trump says, he goes on, oh no, Biden now jumps in and says, we are the most admired country in the world. Says who? Rolling Stone magazine? Who says we're the most admired country in the world? The finest in the history of the world. This is what he says. No one wants to screw around with us. And these are his words, not mine. Oh, really? You mean like how Putin went marching into Ukraine? You mean like how Hamas went and horrifically butchered Israel? You mean how all of these terrorists are coming across our border who don't want to screw around with us, right? Why are they coming over our border? To go get a Happy Meal at McDonald's? Like, why are they coming over our border then? Because if they don't want to screw with us, important because people need it for jobs. However, it is not the number one issue right now in the nation. Trump rebuttals. They have rated Biden the worst president. And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. No one has ever cut taxes like us. Biden wants to raise everybody's taxes 4 times. He wants the tax cuts to expire. So even the two of you, he goes and he points at the, I thought this was brilliant. He points at the moderators and he goes, even the two of you, speaking to the moderators, will have your taxes raised that much by 4 times. I thought that was a brilliant move to really make the moderators feel the gravity of what Biden wants to do to their paychecks as well. Biden rebuttals. He said he will increase taxes. Tariffs will cost the people more. Okay, well, no, he actually cut taxes. He didn't increase them. Okay, he says he somehow has helped the middle class. Now you want to tax cut over the next 5 years that will bankrupt the country. Now that doesn't make any sense at all. Trump has made no progress with China. So he ends by saying, Joe Biden, the one that China is bulldozing right now, in every sense of the word, he turns and says, how can Trump make progress with China when you have been running the country the past 3.5 years? Please tell me how Trump is supposed to make any progress with China when you, Joe, are supposed to be the one running the country. Okay. Moderators switch gears again. They go into the opioid crisis because this is big on everybody's minds because it has to do with the border as well. He says, the moderators say that the opioid crisis has gone up during both presidents' terms. So both presidents, when they served, they're claiming had increased drug trafficking, I guess, or an increase in the opioid crisis. So they turn to Trump first and he says, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country. Biden gets paid by China. He is a Manchurian candidate. Now, if you remember, and we're going to find this on a broadcast when I was on a plane when I heard it, but this was months ago and we'll find it. I had mentioned that I heard the Manchurian candidate and I went and looked up the book. So I had went and looked up the book about the Manchurian candidate and what it represented. Because I had heard this term and I wasn't quite sure what this term meant. So I'll try to find it and see where it is in my notes and we'll bring it up on the next broadcast. But he says that Biden is a Manchurian candidate. He hit the nail on the head. China will own us if you keep allowing them to do what they are doing. Joe, you are destroying our country. Okay. Then he goes in to addiction. And he says, we were doing well at addiction until C-19 came along and drugs started pouring across the border. We were getting low numbers. Have you seen the numbers now? The amount of drugs and human trafficking with women coming across the border. Worst thing I have ever seen. This is what Trump says. Biden rebuttals. Fentanyl went down for a while. This is what he says. Oh, fentanyl went down for a while. I wanted to make sure we get this fentanyl machine. and able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents as well all along the border. We need these machines. We are coming down hard on Asian countries. Biden's age. People are very concerned about Biden's age. And Biden says, I spent half my career being criticized for being the youngest person in politics. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about now you being the oldest. And he had mentioned that. He said, just look how I turned around the horrible situation he left me. Okay. Doesn't quite answer the question, but all right. He goes into Samsung in South Korea and convincing that Samsung to invest in the United States. So he takes a little, he takes a little detour and he gets into this and he says, we are the envy of the world, not a failing country. We are the most progressive country in the world. Everybody trusts us. Not Netanyahu right now. Nope. He don't trust you, not at all. So, when he says, oh, all these leaders trust us, well, there are leaders around the globe that do not trust Biden, especially after he went over on D-Day to France and squatted in a position that I will not say on the stage. Do these leaders trust Biden's competence? I don't think so. Okay. And it's sad because it's sad. His wife, Jill, and others know how bad off he is, and they continue to push and peddle him out there. So they know how bad it is for him and how his mind truly is failing, and they are continuing to help push and peddle him out there. And I actually think that's very sad. Okay, Trump. I took cognitive tests and exams every year, and I just won 2 club championships because he loves golf. He said, Biden can't hit a ball 50 yards. So here we get into the, shall we call it the you-know-what contest over who is a better golfer. He says, I was willing to take a cognitive test. 2 were taken, and he aced both of them. This is what Trump said. Biden said, I would be happy to have a driving contest with Trump. I'm happy to play golf if Trump carries his own bag. Trump then does something very wise, and he says, let's not act like children. And he cuts it to the quick. And I have to tell you, these moments, these little moments here of when he did this, goes a long way. It shows that he can show restraint. It shows that he can check himself. It shows that he's very aware of Biden's cognitive condition. And you find Trump almost checking himself at points. And that I very much appreciated. Biden can't fill a hula hoop. Probably not, Joe. Probably not. Okay. Trump then says, Nancy Pelosi said the Capitol was her responsibility. They had asked about January 6th. Not mine, he said, and they let those people into the Capitol. Trump said, I wish he was a good president, meaning Biden, because I would not have to be here. Biden's military policies are insane. He will drive us into World War III. We are closer to World War III than we can imagine. I agree with that. That I wholeheartedly agree with. Biden said, we are needed to protect the world. No, Jesus Christ is, first of all, Biden. Let's get that straight. Because Biden wants because you're a whiner. That is very presidential and mature. Oh, you're not going to accept it because you're a whiner. This is the man leading our country in the free world. This is his Pinocchio Joe. That's what someone should put that on a t-shirt. Pinocchio Joe, because his nose was growing by the moment as this was happening. Okay. Then after this, they go to their closing statements, right? So they give them each 2 minutes to just bring it on home after we have all witnessed this hour and 90-minute car wreck. And I'm not talking about on President Trump's part. Okay. So anyway, okay. So Biden's closing. Let's get into Biden's closing because they gave him first, probably so he wouldn't forget. So they probably just let him go first so that we could just let Biden get it out of the way. Biden said, we have made significant progress from the debacle left in Trump's last term. We have to make sure we have a fair tax system. Trump has increased your taxes because of a deficit and increased inflation, and now uh, wants to take you more through a 10% tariff. How can Trump increase our taxes and our deficit and raise inflation when he's not the president right now? How can Trump do these things when Biden is the one as the seat warmer in the highest seat in the land? Tell me how Trump is. Let me tell you, he is way more talented than I thought if he could do these things when he's not president. But this is what Biden's saying. He said he wants to get rid of Medicare for our ability to negotiate drug prices with big pharma companies. He said, we got $35 for insulin instead of it being $400. Well, I'm very glad you were able to get insulin down $35, Joe, because Chester happens to be on Lantis. So I'm glad that you did that. But what about the wreck of the insurance system and hospital system? And let's not forget all of these now strange after effects in young people, shall we say, and people of all ages from certain maybe inoculations. So we can't forget that either in all of this. He said the federal deficit is reduced because of all of this over the past 10 years. So because of them negotiating drug prices, it didn't bear down on the federal government to subsidize, and they were able to reduce the deficit over 10 years. Now, I don't think Biden has been in office for the past 10 years. Maybe he's talking about when he was VP with Obama and then the time he is here. We're not sure. He didn't clarify. He said, we're going to make sure we have child care. Now, let me tell you why this is an oxymoron. For the man promoting abortions in all terms, in all freaking terms, is concerned that you have childcare. Now, you tell me how stupid that sounds. The New York is coming out of me. I apologize. But it is foolishness. The man that is promoting to the hills abortions and the DNC that's launching a tens of millions of dollars abortion campaign is concerned about you having childcare. Now, you tell me who is trying to pull the wool over whose eyes here. But this is what he's doing. Okay. He said, we're going to make sure we do something about lead pipes and health problems. Okay. I didn't know we had an epidemic having to do with lead pipes in the nation, but maybe we do. Maybe apparently there is an epidemic health crisis of lead pipes that have been, we've all got this out of our system. You see this, because this is just, I wrote it, but it didn't register with me till I just said it, what it really meant. Okay, so Trump goes, okay, thank God Biden is done. He can go to bed. He can do whatever he needs to do. Him and his lead pipes. Okay, so Trump then gets up and he gets his 2 minutes and he says, like so many politicians, this man is a complainer. So this is right off the gate. Okay. What is it? Wait, what is it? Let me see who this is. Okay. Jerlene Wymore. He would be the last person I would have clean my pipes. Jerlene, I agree. But just like he got insulin down, he might be able to get you a price on a good plumber. He might be able to do that. Okay. So Trump starts out, he says, like so many politicians, this man is a complainer. I don't doubt that many politicians are more complainers than trailblazers. Okay. He doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. The Israel attack would have never happened on Trump's watch, he says. Ukraine should have never happened. And for 3.5 years, we are living in hell. And he's right. This is the thing. He is right about this. He says for 3.5 years, we are living in hell. That is a really good image for everyone. I thought that was a really blunt but a very sobering statement for people, but he's not wrong about that. It has gotten hot under the collar over the past 3.5 years. He said, we have the Palestinians and everyone rioting all over. Yep. Just lump them all in together. We got them. We got everyone right now rioting all over the place. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. In fact, my husband Chris went out with his aide, and there was a man in Pleasant Valley holding a pro-Hamas sign and having slurs against Israel on this sign. Well, my husband half hung himself out the car, and Nir gave the aide, a serious scare, screaming, "Israel is forever." So we are experiencing this, and he comes home to me and he goes, "Guess what I did?" And his aide looks at me and she goes, "You don't want to know." And so basically this happened in the past few weeks. Okay, so he said the Palestinians and everyone are rioting all over. This is true. They're blocking bridges. You have seen what has happened at our universities, or should we call them temples of Baal and Molech? Should we call them that instead? Because that is what they've become, temples for the agenda of Baal and Molech. And you see these campus riots that are very reminiscent of what happened in the 1930s in Nazi Germany as the Weimar Republic is collapsing, that had overinflation, a huge deficit, promoted transgenderism and homosexuality and LGBTQ, right? And on the verge of that collapse, you have these university riots, and those were very reminiscent of that. And he goes, everyone's rioting all over the place. I would agree with that. It is all over the place. The whole country is exploding. That is another true statement. So everyone's rioting all over the place in the whole country. And there's Cyrus right now going on his back. Cyrus, that was a very good analogy to show what's happening to the country right now. It's been turned upside down. Thank you, Cyrus. So the country is exploding. Okay, valid point. Because of you, because they don't respect you. That is true. He said, we rebuilt the military. We had the largest tax cut in history, that he gained jobs because he cut regulations. Trump did. He said, what we did for the military, for our soldiers, we did military choice. He said, instead of waiting 3 months to get something at the VA done, they can go get themselves fixed up. He said, and they had the highest approval rating in history of the VA because they fixed the VA and gave military choice. We are going to make it great again. And this is where Trump and this is where Trump ends. Okay, this is what he says. They have the highest approval rating with the VA. Lead pipes matter. Rennie, that's a good one. There we go. Lead pipes matter. Right? I can't. That needs to go on his shirt. I can't. Yep, lead pipes matter. That we need to put that on a shirt. Oh, we have to. That was great. That was great. Apparently they do matter, and it is an epidemic across this nation right now, because who knew? I didn't know. I looked at Chris like I had no clue. This was such a problem. Forget the millions of people pouring across our border. Let's focus on the lead pipe problem in the United States of America. Lead pipes matter. Okay. So, oh my goodness. Well, I hope you all got a really good laugh out of this, because that is going on a shirt or a button or something. We have to do that, because, I mean, that is like the let's go, you know what. I mean, that is going to be one of the punchlines of the debates, is the issue that Joe has brought to our attention that we have with lead pipes in this nation. Forget who is sneaking through our drainage pipes. Forget that. Nope, don't look there. Don't look in that direction. It's the lead pipes that matter. Yep, all lead pipes matter. Yep, we don't want to discriminate here against not one lead pipe in this nation right now. Okay, so, but I have to say though, Trump won the debate by far. I will tell you, expect the bait and switch. Expect it now. Expect the bait and switch to come as a result of this, because after you needed subtitles to understand him. And so basically I am expecting a bait and switch now to come out of this. We went over that the other night. The prophecy fulfilled. The Daily Mail broke the article. They spoke about 4 people. In the prophetic words, it said 4 people had met. It spoke about Pelosi, Schumer, Clinton, and Obama actually met to see how they were going to swap Joe out. And we talked about this all on the last broadcast if you all want to go watch it. In order to make America great again, you definitely have to make America godly again and clean everyone's pipes. That's what we got to do here, people. This is what we need to do. You need to clean the pipes out of your soul and the soul of this nation right now after what we have witnessed. And speaking of making America godly again, we have our night of prayer. So as we're closing, we'll put that up for you. Jill, and boy, do we need it after this. We need prayer. We need prayer. President Trump needs prayer. Joe Biden needs prayer. The man, whatever they are doing to him, whatever is happening, it's just a very, very sad state to watch. But July 7th, 2024, starting at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are having a night of prayer for the nation, for the will of God to prevail, and for the Trump family. We are looking very forward to doing this and to having you join us. We will be live on all of our platforms. We'll put our platforms up in a moment for all of you to see, but we are going to have guests like Eric and Lara Trump, Mayor Rudy Giuliani, Roger Stone, Robin Bullock, Dr. Lance Wallnow, General Flynn, Alina Habba, Eric Metaxas, Clay Clark, Pastor Jackson Lawmeyer, and more. Donna Clement will be joining us as well, and we might even have some special surprise guests. So please tune in. We really want everyone to come together and lock arms and humble ourselves and pray before God. It is God who is going to turn this. It is God who we need in this. It is God who we need to repent before. And so I just encourage you all. We're humbled that we were asked to do this. We are going to be fasting and praying leading up to it. And that happens 2 days before Madison Square Garden. So I have been asked to be part of Adora America, July 5th at Madison Square Garden. I will be speaking at the Garden. I thank Pastor Carlos for inviting me to do this. So I will be speaking, I believe, words of the Lord about New York. So you can get your discounted tickets from that information on the screen, that Ticketmaster website there. If you plug that in, you can get your tickets for about $20. So please, if you can come, this is 2 days before the night of prayer. We are raising a sound out of New York City. There is a high place that needs to come down. An altar of worship needs to be built to the Lord, and we need to turn this state back over to the Lord. I believe this is going to affect all the way up the line to the governorship doing this. And I am looking very forward to being a part of it. I hope you guys can join me there. It has to be at Madison Square Garden because the first shot was fired in the Garden of Eden at the tree of the knowledge and good and evil. That was when the first shot was fired against humanity. And so where is the Lord going to do it in New York City? In a garden. He's going to deal with the deception in a garden. So I look forward to having you join us.
You have passed the entrance office. Drive safely. It is a speed limit enforcement of 100 kilometers ahead of about 200 meters. It has been processed normally.